Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Puck Buddies podcast. Long overdue. We are both on vacation. I got sick, and then now here we are a month later past the Stanley Cup Finals. NHL awards have gone. We're going to skip both of those, head right into free agent frenzy.
Don't forget the draft.
Yeah, the draft is the draft. Draft is always wait and see. Draft is always, we're not even going to really talk about the rookie contracts today, but we're going to go through some trades and some free agent signings that we got a few opinions on. So, without further ado, let's get right into it.
Yeah, we'll start off with the Maple Leafs and the stuff that they've done within trades. They need to really bring in some defense.
Yes,
so
that was evident during their playoff run.
And with Kadri continually getting suspended in the playoffs, they had to ship him out.
That's the reason, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. So they bring in Barrie and Kerfoot and a sixth for Kadri, Rosen, and a third.
So, I think Toronto made out like bandits on that trade. I mean, Kadri's a great locker room guy. Of course, he's somebody who's like transitioned himself as a player over the years from like the skill guy to the grittiness that he needed to be in order to kind of fit himself into that lineup. But now that he's back, now he's got a new sort of start with Colorado. I think he might have a chance to like. You think about like a Kadri playing on like a wing with like McKinnon or something.
Oh yeah.
Like that, or like even Kadri centering on the second line. Even he can go back to that skill kind of role. So it's going to be a good fit for him. But Toronto getting Barrie, that's another puck moving defenseman to complement Morgan Riley. They're going to have a good 1-2 punch on their defense core now, and Kerfoot's a good solid winger. I mean, he proved it this season. He put up some pretty good numbers, so I'd have to say Toronto won that one.
I'd have to give it in favor of Toronto too, but at the same time, it looks good for Colorado's along with all the other moves they've made. So they're going to have a good season. I can see in the West, but Toronto really needed to bring in Barrie. That's a lot of help.
That's a big piece. Yeah.
And Toronto need to free up some money because they still have to worry about signing Marner. So they dumped the contract of Patrick Marleau to the Carolina Hurricanes. So they get some cap space, but it also costs them a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Which, it sucks to give up, but to free up the $6 million.
And with Carolina buying him out, that kind of leaves Marleau with like an open ticket to like kind of do like a Yager thing, like whatever team's going to pick him up.
Yeah.
We'll pick him up probably just for the leadership, the mentorship for the young guys. I mean, we saw what it did for, Matthews and Marner this season. And, I mean, every time I say Marner's name, I just, like, get this feeling in the back of my head that, like, the day after I upload this podcast, he's going to sign and I'm going to be, like, hitting myself. But it seems like this is going to be another long-haul kind of situation where it's, like, we're going to be waiting till, like, close to September to hear about this. So
yeah, he's enjoying his summer.
Of course, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like, you've been mentioning to me, like, how is Toronto going to be able to afford this guy? What can they even afford to pay him?
Yeah. It's not...
Even
pretty,
even with getting rid of Marleau's contract, I mean...
Yeah, they're going to have to pay him a lot. They already have a lot of expensive guys, so
yeah,
it's kind of a win-now situation for them. But I think the dumping of Marleau was obviously necessary.
Yeah.
With dumping Marleau, they were able to sign Johnsson and
Kapanen.
Yeah,
they were able to make those two acquisitions, which I didn't think they were going to be able to keep Kapanen and Marner.
Yeah.
But to be able to grab Johnsson, too, that's really good because he was actually a really good role player for them.
Yes. And it looks like Marleau wants to stay in California. So I've heard he's, it's not 100% that he would go back to the Sharks, but he is shopping around, I guess, in that area.
Okay.
He's already moved his family back there. So, see what happens. And then we have another trade. We got Zaitsev's moved after a request with Brown and Carcone to Ottawa for Ceci, Harper, Lucic, and a third.
Which is another good move for Toronto. I mean, that was obviously kind of sprung on to Dubas by Zaitsev because Zaitsev didn't want to play in the Toronto media anymore. In the light of them, at least. I mean, it's a situation that's kind of recurring with a lot of teams. I mean, it's a pressure area where there's like, you do everything right. You might not hear your name, but you do everything wrong, and all of a sudden, everyone's banging on your door, right?
Yeah, it's tough with the media in Toronto and hockey.
Some players like the pressure, right? Some players like, performing in front of that. I think, Tavares is going from, like, a market like the Islanders and then showing up in Toronto and doing all these interviews, and I think he had a hella season. Like, I mean, just, it's a situation where Zaitsev wanted out, and I think Dubas needs some credit there because to bring in Cody Ceci, who's, like, actually kind of starting to prove himself in Ottawa as a good, like, locker room guy as well as, filling the gaps in the lineup of the defense. I mean, Toronto's definitely bolstered their back end throughout these trades that they've made to acquire Barry and now CC. The other guys are just kind of like,
They're just little minor pieces. Yeah, CC's a nice piece to have for the money that they're paying him. Zaitsev was quite an expensive contract.
yeah, he was for sure.
So the fact that he wanted out kind of helps, I guess. Maybe the fact he wanted out diminishes your return, but at the same time, I think they did a really good job.
Shouts out to my dad there. He always said Zaitsev was like the most overpaid defenseman in the NHL this whole season. He's just like, I don't know why they paid him so much.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's it is what it is, and now we
send to Ottawa, the dumping ground.
Yeah.
And then we got some more trades to talk about. Montreal got a whole bunch of picks. They turned Deloriers and Shaw into 4 picks.
Yeah, so Shaw got shipped out to Chicago, which is the more notable of the two deals because they were able to grab all 4 of these picks are in 2020, keep in mind. So, they're loading up on short-term picks for next season or for the next draft. And, I mean, it sucks to lose Shaw. I mean, Delorier is kind of like a, younger prospect sort of kind of roster player, but Shaw was like kind of a big part of the grit on that team. And, I mean, but he's going back to Chicago. He had a lot of success in Chicago. That's pretty much where he sort of solidified himself as like an NHL great guy.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for Shaw to be headed to a location where I think he'll continue to find more success at least.
Yeah, I'm sure he's happy to go back to Chicago.
Yeah.
And another one that was pretty big. Galchenyuk was traded for Phil Kessel. I think that one's going to fill some seats in Arizona.
Always. Phil Kessel's a seat-filling player. He's definitely somebody to watch. Of course, with the aging core of Pittsburgh, and we kind of saw how in the playoffs it just, that it seems like their big guns are running out of gas almost. For them to bring in a guy like Galchenyuk in exchange for Kessel, and I mean, of course, there were some pieces exchanged back and forth, but they weren't as important as that, one-for-one kind of deal. I think it's big. I think it's huge that Galchenyuk is going to be able to get a chance to play with guys like Crosby, for example. Crosby's going to be able to mentor him, and Galchenyuk's a young player who's like, I mean, troubled isn't exactly the word I would use, but maybe lost is a bit of a good word for him. He didn't have a great time towards the end of his tenure in Montreal. And then this season in Arizona, he kind of had a very slow start, started to pick it up towards the end, but I mean, to try to find himself a new home in exchange for, Phil Kessel, obviously it's a big piece to lose, but Galchenyuk's at least a skilled guy. He'll fill that spot on the power play.
Yeah, Galchenyuk's going to be a nice addition for them, I think. And Phil Kessel, he took a secondary role in Pittsburgh, which he has not been used to. And, he's going to have more like a Toronto role like he had, where he's the guy, I think, in Arizona. So I think that's kind of what he wants. I think he's going to be happy there.
He kind of has to be almost, right? Like, I mean, he had. It's not fair to say he didn't have success in Pittsburgh because he did.
He did.
But it's the same thing. It's I always called it the Chris Kunitz effect, where it's like if you're playing with Crosby or Malkin, you're going to have a big year.
Yeah.
Like it's going to happen, and then so Kessel. We'll see what he can do in Arizona. That one's one that I'm kind of waiting to see. I'm like 90% sure Galchenyuk's going to have success in Pittsburgh, though.
Kessel is a little older now, but I mean, he held a role like that in Toronto where there weren't really many pieces around him, and he had amazing years.
He was the guy, yeah.
He was the guy, which I'm sure he wants to be again, but he is a little older, so we'll see how things go for him there. The Vegas Golden Knights move Miller to Buffalo.
And Erik Haula. Those are the 2 big pieces that they got rid of. So it was Miller to Buffalo for some picks, and then Erik Haula to Carolina. Carolina's doing. We'll talk about Carolina a lot because they've picked up a lot of pieces and they haven't lost a lot after having such an incredible year.
Yeah.
So they'll be a team to watch for next year. But I think Haula moving to Carolina. This is the first time, obviously, Vegas only been around for 2 seasons. This is the first time where they're really kind of having to shed. They lost Belmar as well. That's another, kind of big leader piece.
For a team relatively new, they're already running into some cap trouble.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and it's a peculiar situation because it's not exactly like, after their first season, they had to basically shift from a build from nothing to a win now mentality. And that's like 2 completely different ends of the spectrum when it comes to building an NHL hockey team.
Yeah. So
there was going to be some needs to shed there. And I mean, Haula needed to go in order for them to be able to afford Peary, which they did end up doing eventually. But Carolina picking up Haula is really good because Haula in the previous season, he spent a lot of this season with injury troubles. You didn't see him very much. you know, he was kind of like a second line center. He wouldn't really fit as a third line center in most teams. So going to Carolina, maybe he'll find a new home on the second line there, and we'll see what happens, I guess. But
Yep.
converting them into picks is good at least.
Yep. We have JT Miller to the Canucks for pieces.
Yes, there's just many different like picks that kind of came back, and a prospect I believe as well.
Yeah, Miller had to go. I mean, it's just cap again.
Yep.
Cap issues with all the big names they got out in Tampa. So I think this is nice. I don't understand it myself from the Canucks perspective. I think it's he's a nice player to have, but are you winning now or what are their plans to do?
It's
Canucks.
tough. The Canucks are another one of those teams in a tough spot because they like, you know, Pettersson has the breakout year. Maybe they want to
Yeah,
try to capitalize on that and
I
build
think
around him a
the
little bit.
rebuild is happening faster than they expected due to how amazing Pettersson has been.
Yeah, screw you, Pettersson. You're screwing up a rebuild by being so damn good. Like,
Hopefully, he can repeat that season
yeah,
for him.
well,
We have PK Subban to the Devils for picks and prospects.
yeah. So didn't seem like roster players really went that way. I mean, those guys maybe had some time in the NHL this season with the Devils. I mean, the Devils obviously kind of like a bottom of the barrel team this season, but they're stocking up and they're gonna try to, you know, head straight into that, I guess, winning mentality now.
Yep.
Um,
Subban was expensive.
Yeah.
So they needed to really had to get him out of Nashville.
Yeah.
So I think going to the Devils is a nice spot for him.
It's a good fit for him. They don't really have like a, you know, like a number one defenseman like that right now. I mean, they got, you know, Damian Severson who had a good year,
Yeah.
but beyond him, who do they really have on that back end that can just, you know, open up the game and give your team a spark?
Yeah.
Subban's a big locker room guy too.
Yeah, and the Devils they did a lot actually this offseason.
Yeah.
You know,
We'll keep
of course
talking
with
about
Jack
it.
Hughes.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
you kind of want to, right? And Taylor
Yeah.
Hall had an amazing season there too.
You got to give Hall a reason to want to stick around.
Really, you do.
So then we got Trouba to the Rangers for Pionk, and Pick.
Yeah, so Pionk had a good kind of breakout season with the Rangers. The Trouba trade was a long time coming. I mean, he's wanted kind of out of there for a bit. Obviously, just not the greatest situation for him to be in Nashville, or not in Nashville, rather, sorry, in Winnipeg. So this is just kind of a shedding for the Jets that was necessary eventually. But to grab at least a prospect defenseman who had a good breakout year this year in exchange for him, it's good. We'll get to why that's going to be once we get to the free agent signings. You know, their back end took a big hit this offseason because they did lose Myers as well. But at least, you know, they got something back for Trouba, and that was going to be the big concern. So,
Yeah, I like that. The Rangers also have done a lot this offseason to make themselves more contenders. They lost a lot of pieces since the start of last season.
It's definitely become a more competitive NHL, I feel like, just, you know, with all the moves that have happened.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good season coming up. I think be fun to watch. And then we head to your Flyers.
Your Philadelphia Flying. I can't do it like you.
Now they traded for Hayes, although he was a free agent.
Yeah. They sent a fifth, I think, for him.
Yeah, to have his negotiation rights, basically.
Yeah.
And in order to keep him there, they overpaid him in my eyes. But they keep him. They also acquire Justin Braun and Niskanen.
Yeah, they traded Gudas for Niskanen and a couple of picks to get Justin Braun. I mean, you know more about Braun than I do because, you know, watching him on the Sharks.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's worth the picks, but at least, you know, their back end seems solid now. You know, their back end was being carried offensively by Gostisbehere. And I mean, as much as I love Gostisbehere, you know, the Ghost, everybody likes him in Philly. I don't know. You need more around him, and then Provorov kind of having a lot of troubles. He's one of their young prospect kind of defensemen, and so I mean, Gudas was definitely a good guy to have around. You know, he some grit, but Niskanen brings that as well. So to trade Gudas for Niskanen is kind of a good 1-for-1 deal, I think. And then Braun to kind of slide into that second defensive pairing, I think will be good for them.
Yeah, Braun's just a solid defender. You know, nothing special. He's not
Doesn't seem to make very
but-
many mistakes. I mean,
Yeah, no, he's
he'll
just
be
a
gritty in the
solid-
corners where you need him.
Yeah, he's just a nice, solid defenseman to have back there. And then Niskanen, I think you won the trade, but it was good
Yeah.
for both teams.
That's most of the trades we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, those were a lot of the bigger trades that happened so far this off season. But free agency, it kind of hit with a boom. There was been
Oh
a
yeah.
lot. We're still waiting on a few guys to sign, but
You know, you got your Mariners, your Lioness.
yeah, a lot of those restricted guys. Are still waiting.
Briefly, I'd like to pose the question to you because you mentioned you think that Lionel might want out.
Oh yeah, he don't want to be there no more.
Maybe he's just praying that like he gets an Aho situation where somebody offer sheets him.
Yeah, but I don't see a situation where he gets offer sheeted enough that they don't match it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean he's a superstar player in my eyes.
absolutely.
Guy's got snipes.
He can blow open a game for sure.
Yeah, so we're still waiting on a signing there. But let's get to some of them that have happened. Jordan Binnington re-signs with the Blues, 2 years at $4.5 million per.
That's good, I think.
I think it's solid.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people get worried with the fact that what if it was like a one-time
Like a one-off
deal?
season, right?
Yeah, he just has this amazing season, but he's actually nothing. I mean, this guy was playing in the ECHL or was told to go play in the ECHL, and he said no.
No, I ain't doing that.
But he came up and he had a spectacular season for them, won a Stanley Cup. So I think $4.5 million for 2 years is okay. You can really see what you got with him. You know, they didn't sign long term or anything.
Yeah, it's
So if 2 years down the road it don't work out, you figure something out.
for at 4.42 years. That's like a low risk, high reward contract, and it's for both sides. It works. So I mean, I'm happy to see that Binnington gets that deal.
Yeah, that's perfect. And he will have the starting job next year, and let's hope he runs with it.
Rest in peace, Jake Allen.
And then we have Ryan Dzingel signing with Carolina at 3.5 for 2 years.
Yeah, 3.5 per at 2 years. I mean, that's maybe a little much for Dzingel. He hasn't the thing is that during his breakout, he's bounced around, right?
Yeah.
So he broke out with Ottawa, but he broke out on Duchesne's wing. He had pieces around him to help him succeed. And then he goes to Columbus, where they were all in on this season, and we saw how that worked out for them.
They made the second round for the first time ever.
Yeah, and that was it.
That was it.
And but for him to show up in Carolina, I mean, that's big for Carolina, I think. So at 3.3 for 2 years, kind of a low risk, but it's a lot. So you're gonna have to get some production out of him. And we'll talk later because Ferland's out, so you're kind of being. I think that's actually the next one we're going to talk about.
Yep.
Dzingel's really just going to slide right into that slot, and he might have to add a little grit to his game to fill that, but at least he might provide a little bit more offense.
Yeah, I don't mind the contract. I mean, it's 2 years. It's okay money. It works for them, and hopefully he can produce for them. And then, like you were just saying, we got Michael Ferland, who went to Vancouver, 4 years at 3.5.
That's a long contract, and I mean the only thing that scares me about that is that I had Ferland on my fantasy team all season, and I swear to God, if I had $1 for every time he left the game halfway through for precautionary upper body injury reasons,
oh yeah,
it was a mess. And so, I mean, Ferland's a gritty player. He's gonna bring that edge to his game, and if he can't bring that edge to his game, he's not gonna be the player that he is. That's just the be all and end all of it. He's not a skilled guy on his own. He does provide some skill. He can score goals. He can get gritty in front of the net.
Yeah.
But if he can't play rough and he can't play rough and tumble hockey, then he's not going to succeed. So at a 4-year contract, with the chances of him getting hurt this season, I mean, Vancouver's taking a gamble on the guy.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, 4 years is quite a while for a guy that misses time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they need a grit piece.
They do.
I'm not sure where else they were going to find it.
They need somebody if you think about their top line being let's be hypothetical here. Let's say the top line's Pettersson and then Besser on a wing. Ferland on the other wing is going to protect those two guys and create a lot of space for them.
Yeah.
He's going to be like what Tom Wilson is on Washington, except he's actually going to be good.
Tom Wilson's sick.
Oh no.
Tom Wilson can score, and people are scared of that guy.
Yeah, I mean
every team wants Tom Wilson. I'll tell you that.
It's a Wendell Clark deal. You love having him on your team, but you hate playing against him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. So the Sharks re-signed Kevin Labanc for 1 year, $1 million.
Yes.
Which is an absolute steal. This guy went off for 65, 70 points last season. You get him for 1 year, and he's still restricted after this coming season.
So, Kurt, why is the media and why is there investigation looming above the Sharks right now?
I don't even know. It's ridiculous. I just saw an article. I didn't read the full thing because I was dumb, but it said the league's going to investigate the contract because of what he's getting for what he produced. They're thinking there's some kind of trickery going on.
Maybe some kind of under the table kind of deals. Or
I don't know. I'm
some
sure he has
kinda-
tons of bonuses, if he hits certain milestones in his contract. But
They're at least going to have to look into it. But I mean, like as far as the Sharks go, I mean, you got to hand it to their GM, Doug Wilson is his name, right? Yeah. I mean, that's a hell of a contract for a 70-point player who's gonna. I mean, he scored big goals for them this season too.
oh yeah,
He's got a heck of a shot. He's a good player for the Sharks, and with Nyquist coming out, maybe there's a chance even for him to slide up into that second line spot this season.
I could see it. I think playing along Joe Thornton was huge for him, and he got a lot of his production on the power play.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a point on every goal in that 5-minute major in the playoffs.
That was a legendary 5-minute major too.
Legendary.
Legendary.
Yeah, he had a goal and 3 assists on that power play.
Yeah, on the next podcast we'll talk about the GM's meeting and the rules that got asserted. Some of the changes that have been made. We'll talk a little bit more about expectations for next season and a little bit of the stuff that happened with that. But
yeah, there's always going to be holes to fill, and
yeah.
when you fill one, there's another one created. So
exactly.
We'll talk about all that. But we have Sebastian Aho, who got offer sheeted by the Montreal Canadiens.
Yes.
For 5 years, 8.5 per.
Yeah.
Now, if he was to stay with Montreal and the contract wasn't matched, they would owe them, I believe it would be a first, second, and a third.
It was like first, second, and a third, and yeah.
And it would have to be their own picks, no one else's, if they had.
Couldn't have been traded.
So, I don't understand the offer sheet. Now, why do you offer sheet a guy at such low money? Because you know that's going to be matched.
Well, I mean, it's also you gotta keep in mind Aho signed it.
Yeah, Aho signed it because he wants to go there. But
yeah.
They should have offered him more to a point where Carolina couldn't match.
They did load up on those other picks, so I mean, it could have made sense. Big puzzle going on.
Yeah.
Mark Bergevin trying to figure something out there, and
common sense should have told you, well, that's getting matched. But
I mean, yeah, you saw Carolina's Twitter account, and they're obviously one of the most prolific Twitter accounts out there, and they're like, "Are you kidding me? Thank God," because they're like that GM in Carolina's now just got to sit back and be like, "Okay, we're gonna match it."
Question?
The Cole question.
The poll question.
The poll question
on Twitter.
Yeah.
They said, "Will we match the offer sheet?" And the two options in the poll were yes and we.
Yeah.
They literally put it in French.
Yeah, that's the troll right there.
The troll.
You'd love to see it, Give that social media manager a raise after this season. They did a heck of a job.
Yeah, that made me laugh. So that contract was matched. So
yes.
Aho is staying in Carolina. They're also keeping Peter Mrazek, their starting goaltender, 2 years at 3.1 per.
Okay. That's a pretty good.
It.
That's a good contract for them. I mean, Mrazek is he's a goalie with passion.
I think he had a good year, and
yeah.
I can see him only getting better.
Of course, and now with Reimer backing him up, the Reimer for the Darling move and McElhinney out, it's kind of 1-2
punch again.
It gives Mrazek, more of a chance to start, be the number one guy. It's a one, obviously Reimer coming in isn't going to make it as much of a 1A, 1B situation as it ended up being because of McElhinney having an incredible year.
Yeah, his playoffs.
Yeah.
Great. But, yeah, I mean, you have a solid backup, so
yeah.
there's no worries, If Mrazek has to miss a few games, you're not scared.
Yeah, of course.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Throwing Reimer in there, so Mrazek stays for 2 more years. You have Varlamov signing with the Islanders, 4 years at 5 per.
Now this is what's interesting to me is that Varlamov ended up spending a lot of the latter part of the season on the bench because of Grubauer's breakout. Really, yeah. I mean, and you really got to call it a breakout. Grubauer's been in the NHL for how long? I mean, we watched him back when he was on the Spitfires. He really had a good year, and now he's kind of solidified himself as the number one go-to guy.
Well, they brought him in to groom him as the number one. That's the next number one. I think they plan on Varlamov walking at the end of the season, anyways.
Yeah.
So Varlamov obviously started the year, and then as it got later on, they switched things over, and Grubauer was hot.
At 5 per, I mean, it could be a deal, but it's one of those kind of wait and see ones for me. 4 years is a long time for it to not work out potentially.
Yeah.
But Varlamov is one of those veteran guys who's gonna demand that kind of term, and if he didn't get it there, he was gonna get it somewhere else. So, it's one of those it is what it is kind of contracts, I guess.
Yeah, I mean their goaltending in the Islanders last season was stellar.
It was the best 1A, 1B situation.
Just shocked everybody how great they were. So, I don't know if
Speaking
it'll be that good. If not,
yeah,
it'll be close. Speaking of the Islanders' goaltending situation, Leonard has moved on to the Chicago Blackhawks for 1 year at $5 million.
yeah. So the thing that I wanted to discuss is that like Leonard did put out a piece in the media, like a letter saying like he would have stayed if they would have offered, but they basically don't want to say he threw them under the bus because all he did was state facts. And he said like the management had kind of already decided that they wanted Varlamov. So I mean, for him to be able to go over to Chicago, where he gets a chance to now solidify himself as a number one goalie, and I mean, unfortunately, I gotta expose my bad opinion of Corey Crawford here. Um, he's got
Crawford's back.
Yeah, I think he had the Chris Osgood effect in front of him,
Yeah.
which is like he didn't need to be a great goalie because he had a stellar team in front of him for so many years. So for Leonard to be coming in there and then he'll be actually giving Crawford some competition in the crease, and maybe that'll be like a little kick in the ass that he needs to move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good signing, and it's low risk too.
Yeah, it's
1
just
year.
1 year, yeah. So you see who's going to be your guy and put him out there.
Say Leonard has an incredible year, maybe they'll extend him.
Yep, could always happen. Anders Lee stays for 7 years at $7 million per year.
Which I think is a deal.
I think that's good.
It's a good deal, and I mean, for them to be keeping him after seeing their last captain walk, it's good. It's definitely good for them.
I think he wanted to stay, so.
Of course he did. Yeah, I mean he's the leader in that city. He's the leader in the locker room. He's an absolute role player on the ice. He's very underrated across the NHL. Like a lot of people kind of overlook him when they're looking at the matchups that they're playing against, and everybody's going to be worried about Barzal and whatever, and you kind of get Anders Lee just kind of in the open to do what he wants, and he produces. So I'm 7 for 7 is good.
Yep. And then you get one of the biggest free agents in this offseason, Matt Duchene, signs in Nashville. We've seen this coming, but he signs for 7 years at $8 per.
Yeah.
I honestly thought he was going to make more money. I thought he was going to land 9.5.
I think he kind of traded the length for the money there a little bit. Nashville's a great city to play in. He will get a chance to be their number one center, which is I think what he wanted in the first place. After having some turmoil at the end of his Colorado days, moving into a team like Ottawa, which is the bona fide worst team in the NHL.
Yeah.
Going over to Columbus and scoring a legendary goal for them, and now he's out of there. He's got to settle down at some point. And so 7 years at $8 per with a team like Nashville, who regardless of losing Subban this year, they're still going to be like a contending team for a while. They're going to be a competitive team at least.
Oh,
they've got a great core. They've got great prospects in their lineup. I mean, it's a great place to play.
Duchene owns a house there.
Yeah,
he's there partying all the time. Hanging out. So
he loves country music. He loves country music. He
plays
plays country music. I mean, we saw him on Twitter doing it a couple times. So maybe that had something to do with it. Who knows?
Yeah, it fit. He wanted to play there, and they offered him, a long term, so he'll be there.
He'll be a good piece on the power play. I think Johansson will complement him very well. They'll be able to move the puck around a lot, and I think it should work out. It should work out. I say should with like a big old asterisk because it's Matt Duchene, and you never know what's going to happen. So
yeah, I think Duchene's a good piece for a team. I would never want him on a team as a number one guy.
No,
because he's not a number one guy. But you get another restricted free agent here. Timo Meier re-signs with the Sharks. 4 years, $6 million. Per year.
I'll let you take this one because I mean you got the best, most informed opinion on this one. I would say
the money's perfect. $6 million. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great price for him. I think he's only going to get better from here. But the term is a little short. I like to see him sign like a 7-year deal, maybe even a 6-year deal. 4's kind of short. In that amount of time, you'll need to re-sign him, and at that point, I think he'll have matured and become as great as he is anticipated to be.
Yeah, but then he could be a $10 million a year per player. Who knows? Like,
in
right?
4 years, the cap will probably go up. He might be making even more.
Exactly.
But yeah, I wish they would have gotten it for a longer term than that.
Yeah, I mean, but at least they get to keep him.
Yeah, they locked him up. The Sharks are in a little bit of cap trouble right now after they sign. Well, we'll get there, Carlson.
Yeah.
So they had to keep his money low, and I'm sure he said, if you're going to pay me a little less, I need less terms so he can hit free agency again sooner. Wayne Simmons goes to the Devils for 1 year, $5 million. Wayne Simmons played with at the trade deadline, was sent to Nashville.
Yep.
And Subban just went to New Jersey, and he's following him there. Only 1 year deal for $5 million, I think, is a steal for Simmons. He didn't have anything going for him in the playoffs in his time in Nashville.
No, he just couldn't find a fit with that lineup.
But he made a statement saying that he's out to prove people wrong this year.
Yeah.
So that'll be exciting to see.
I mean, as a guy who watched him for years in Philly, he's a grit guy. He's a guy who's going to, he plays the game like it's, do or die all the time. And you really want those kind of guys in your lineup. And I think for New Jersey to get that kind of grit up front is going to be really important because they need a guy to complement Taylor Hall. They need a guy to complement like a Jack Hughes. You got a Nico Hischier who's up there. You've got all these skill guys, but they don't got a lot of grit guys who can also put up numbers. Mm-hmm. And so to grab Simmons at that, low risk, kind of low price deal, it's really going to be, a season that you're going to want to watch the Devils. You're going to be wanting to watch them this season.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a fun year for them, I think.
Just hope Corey Schneider can turn it around. Cough, cough.
We have Nyquist signing with Columbus for
4 years, I think, 5.5.
Yeah, 4 years, 5.5.
Yeah,
it's whatever to me. This one, I think he's a nice piece to have, but
I love them on the Red Wings.
Who?
I mean, yeah, I love them on the Red Wings. I was, very happy to see him go to a contender when they traded him to the Sharks. But now for him to be like, Columbus lost everything. Like, Columbus is going to be like, if Columbus makes the playoffs next season, come back to this moment in the podcast and I'll PayPal you $1. Like,
one whole dollar.
That's like, I just can't, like, I can't fathom how he's going to be able to live up to that number. At least, Columbus had the ability to pay him that, but just as far as, pieces around him go, Nyquist is a good second liner, a good power play player, but like he's going to need to be a go-to winger there, and I'm just like not sure that he's going to be cut out for that without the pieces around him to help him succeed.
Yeah, they're going to put him, I think, they want to give him a role I don't think he's going to be ready to fulfill.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of a contract that sets himself up to be like overpaid, and I mean, you can't blame the guy. He's not going to not say no to that kind of money. He's got to make money. This is his job.
Yeah.
But it's one of those ones that just makes me kind of like
money talks.
Hesitant, I guess.
Corey Perry to Dallas
after getting bought out too.
Yeah, he was making dumb money. Wasn't he making like $8 million?
It was a big contract, and so Anaheim buying him out was basically like, you were injured all last season. It's kind of time for us to move on from you and continue our rebuild.
He's been there for so long. That was his home.
He's only ever played for them. So
yeah, so just get bought out. It's kind of almost a stab in the back, but as a franchise, I understand it.
I don't think there's hard feelings there. I think he gets it too. So
yeah. So he signs with Dallas for 1 year for $1.5 million, which is like super cheap, I think, for him if he can stay healthy. But at the same time, he's still getting paid from Anaheim with the buyout.
Yeah.
So he's making his money.
And it's like it's got, I think, I'm pretty sure when I read into that contract, it's pretty like bonus loaded. So as far as if he's able to produce and he's able to turn it around, he's able to stay healthy, he's going to get more money. So that's good news for him. I mean, and then there's the other Dallas contract that we're going to talk about here.
Yep, Dallas signs Joe Pavelski, 3 years at $7 million.
Yep.
Per. That's an amazing, pickup for Dallas. I think they have a team where their shots on net, and Pavelski's a guy who'll stand in front of the net and he'll tip pucks.
So is Perry, exactly.
Yeah, Pavelski's a great puck tipper. I think he's probably the best in the league. Everyone wanted him to resign in San Jose because he's been there since the beginning, drafted in 2003. He was the captain of the team, and they had to let him go if he wanted this kind of money because the Sharks, like I said, are in cap troubles. Plus, I don't think they were willing to offer a 35-year-old player term. I mean, that's why they lost Marleau 2 years ago, and he got his 3-year deal, and so did Pavelski. At 35, he's got a 3-year deal now. At $7 million per. You can't beat that. And he said his son helped the decision because his son's a big fan of Dude Perfect, and they're just down the road, I guess, from the arena.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, so in my opinion on this is that the Ducks are going old, sort of like what ended up happening. I mean, and it's not necessarily as much with LA that it ended up happening to them by choice.
I mean, the Stars are going.
Yeah, I'm saying the Stars are going old,
Yes.
but I'm saying like it happened to LA, not so much by choice. I mean, the Kovalchuk signing was by choice, but
Yeah.
they ended up becoming one of the older teams in the NHL just by hanging on to their core so long.
Yeah.
But to bring in two guys like Corey Perry and Joe Pavelski at the money that they did, I mean, if you think about like their power play is going to be nuts. They've got insane puck moving defensemen. They've got you got your Lindell, you got your Heiskanen on the blue line. They've got great goaltending in Ben Bishop. I'm their power. I can't think of their power play being any better than like Ben Sigan and either having Pavelski or Perry in front of the net. They're gonna produce. It's gonna happen.
That division is going to be awesome because I see Chicago getting better too.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great division.
Colorado getting better.
Yeah,
it's going to be.
It's gonna be a
battle.
It's gonna be a
in the
bloodbath next
Central.
season for sure.
Bobrovsky signs with Florida, 7 years at $10 million per year.
I think we agree on this one.
We knew pretty much going in that he was more than likely going to end up there. There was a lot of rumors about it.
Yeah,
and
no state sales tax or no state income tax, right?
Yeah.
You don't pay anything there on that.
so that's a lot of money.
Yes.
You just hope he can have the performance that he had in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Again, he was great. He's been a great goalie for years. But $10 million, it's a lot of money.
And for the time that they signed him to, like 7 years. 7 years is a long time to fall off.
Yeah.
And I mean, in a situation where they ended up bringing back Bobby Lou, and he retired now. Shouts out to Roberto Luongo.
Yes, rest in peace.
He'll make the Hall of Fame. I have no doubts about it. I think he will. And
no doubts, I think.
Yeah, I mean, 7 for 10 is just. It sucks because Florida had the room to pay for it, and they did, and so it's a risk Florida was willing to take, and yeah, I guess we'll see how that one plays out down the road. I mean, I'm sure he's gonna have a good season here.
Yep. Filppula, back in Detroit, 2 years at 3 per.
Heck yeah, what a deal Yzerman struck there.
I think Yzerman likes Filppula.
I mean, he brought
him to Tampa.
He brought him to Tampa, and then he brought him back to Detroit. I mean,
so yeah,
that's a good pickup for Detroit. Detroit is not obviously going to be a contender here this season. They won't be for a while again. They're still working on their rebuild. They still have to shed Jimmy Howard and Jonathan Bernier. They got to figure out their goalie problems because those two guys are both going to fall off at like the same time age-wise.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be, it's one of those situations where it's like, honestly, the biggest pickup that the Red Wings got this offseason was Steve Yzerman.
Yeah.
So at least him bringing in Filppula is kind of showing that he's willing to at least plug the holes of the already sort of sinking ship to the point where the organization's going to survive. They're going to win some games next season, and the rebuild's now going to start to rise, and we'll see how that goes.
Trust the process.
Yeah, trust the process, of course.
We got Myers signing in Vancouver at 5 years, 6 per.
Yeah, that's it's one of those ones. Like, I mean, I
think he was a top defensive free agent.
Yeah, he was one that somebody was going to pay him that.
Yeah.
So
Carlson signed before the end of before free agency opened.
Yes.
So you expected Myers was going to be the next big guy. Nothing too great. I think he got exactly what he would have been given anywhere else. 5 years, $6 million. It's perfect for him. He's going to be a great player.
Yeah, he'll fit in that lineup, and they needed somebody on the back end to kind of take over for Edler as Edler kind of shifts out. I mean, he did re-sign for it's sort of like an end of his career kind of contract, I think. So Myers to kind of complement that on the back end is going to be big. It adds some size for their defenseman, which is good. And yeah, we'll see how he plays with them.
Yeah, I do like it though. And we got Cam Talbot signing.
Yeah, that's for Calgary.
Oh, yes.
Because they ended up losing Mike Smith, which I hope I wrote down because I don't know if I wrote it down now that I think about it. But so Cam Talbot now going to show up in Calgary. I think Calgary signing Talbot and losing Smith is kind of their indication that they're willing to roll with Riddick as their number one.
Yeah, and I think that was the plan going ahead too. Was Riddick was their guy, and hopefully he can play well for them because Talbot only 1 year at 2.75. It's just a small deal.
Yeah, low risk, low risk, kind of medium reward, I guess, is what you could call that, and he'll be a good backup goaltender to have.
Yeah, he's going to spend most of his season on the bench. Although a lot of teams are transitioning to this, 1A, 1B situation where you want to split your games up until it comes playoff time, and then you
And then
stick
you go with
to
your number one guy. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's okay. It's a what if, whatever contract. For me, it's a backup goaltender.
Yeah.
Matt Zuccarello
Yes.
gets 5 years, 6 per year in Minnesota.
Yes. I'm glad you remember that because I don't think I wrote down where he went.
No.
Yeah. So he went from the New York to Dallas,
Yes.
and then he got hurt like the second game.
Broke his arm or something.
Yeah. It
He
was
came back relatively quick from a broken arm.
Yeah, it was a bad injury for them to get. It was unlucky, of course, but for him to end up with the Wild, I think the Wild kind of need a guy like Zuccarello. So it's
I love the guy. He's one of my favorite players.
yeah, he brings a good edge to his game. He's not super gritty, but he tries hard for his size. He puts up numbers, and I think he's kind of like I don't want to call him a locker room guy, but he leads by example.
Dude's just a hockey player.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a good deal for them.
Good deal, good deal.
Artemi Panarin. 7 years, 11.5 per to the Rangers.
That's another one I forgot to write down. Great, like the team.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one. It was Panarin and Bobrovsky. It was the Russians. Where were they going to go? Were they going to go together?
Rumor was they were going together.
Yeah.
Oh, they were both going to end up in Florida.
I think they both just kind of chose the money in the end, and I guess that's a good thing for Panarin with the comments he made in the media the other day about Vladdy Putin. Shouts out to Panarin's family. Hopefully they're okay.
Yeah, I like it for the Rangers. I mean, yeah, it's 11.5 million, but you're getting a player.
Yeah, you're getting a
Yeah.
heck of a player. You're getting a guy who's going to be your number one winger, and you're getting somebody who creates offense every single time he's out there on the ice.
Yep.
He's going to have so much, like, who around him is going to kind of get in his way of filling that role. There's not really anybody.
Kako.
I mean, and he'll be able to kind of teach Capo Caco.
Yeah, I think it's a nice little role model to be playing along with.
Yeah,
I mean, if I was him, I wouldn't have turned down the vodka. I would have stayed in Columbus.
of
The
course.
vodka.
Just for the vodka deal, yeah. They really wanted him to stay. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it happen. And I mean, it's finally going to give some offensive support to Zibanejad, who had a great year this season. And yeah, it's definitely a much needed offensive piece for the Rangers. Still not expecting them to contend next year, but at least they'll have a fighting chance, is what we'll call it.
Yes.
Because obviously you got Lundqvist, and they'll have to deal with that. Soon.
That's another rebuild I see happening a lot faster now that they're bringing in free agents and they have the second overall pick. They're going to be a really good team, and I give it like 2 years.
Yeah.
To watch. We got a tiny deal here, but as you said, Dallas was getting older. They did lose one old guy to the Leafs. Spezza signs 1 year at league minimum.
$700K.
Yep. So
That's a deal.
That's a steal. I think that's a great deal. A lot of rumors said he was going to go back to Ottawa and play another year there and then hang him up. But goes to the Leafs.
At least the thing is, he goes to the Leafs and he fills the gap that Marleau left.
Yeah.
And he's also, he's a second power play unit guy. He's somebody who comes with a lot of experience and can kind of, I don't think he'll be able to quite fill the mentorship role that Marleau left, but he'll at least alleviate some of that pressure that was left with that gap. I mean, and he's going to fit into the Leafs team nicely. And at that price, just for 1 year, absolutely. I mean, I would take it. That's one that's going to work for everybody.
Yeah, I think I'm just excited for him to be in the Toronto media because I just love hearing him laugh. So hopefully the media can make him laugh.
Yeah, of course.
As you were mentioning earlier, we have Mike Smith.
Yes.
Who signs 1 year, $2 million with the Oilers.
Yeah. It was the Oilers. And he is going to, I guess, back up Koskinen. Is it going to be the plan? Because I think...
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, if you're going to pay Koskinen what you paid him, you kind of have to roll with him. You kind of, hopefully it works out. If not, you have Mike Smith, who hopefully can play like he did in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean he's a streaky goaltender for sure. When he gets on a tear, it seems like it's impossible to score on him. But then there's like times in his seasons where it just like everything goes in, and like you remember this season where you hear about the locker room fight between James Neal and Mike Smith, and just hear James Neal say make an effing save. Like that's
yeah. Well, Neal didn't have a great year.
Exactly, a lot of pressure both ways. I think so.
Yeah. I gotta see what happens with things there. I mean, the Oilers, I don't see them being anything special. Hopefully, with their coaching, they can sneak into the playoffs.
I just hope in like 3 to 5 years that they've actually improved and that we don't see McDavid like demanding out.
Yeah, I can see that happening if things aren't working out. If he's not going to have the opportunity to win, he's going to want out of there. And any team would be glad to take him.
Absolutely.
So William Karlsson staying
With
in
the Vegas,
Vegas
yep.
for 8 more seasons at 5.9 per season.
Which I think is a steal.
That's steal. If he can have that year he had the first year.
He had a good year last year too. I mean, it wasn't quite as stellar as his first year,
Yeah.
and the first year was just kind of stellar because they didn't have as many pieces around him. I mean, you think about they pick up Pacioretty, they pick up Stone, they pick up Stastny for last year. Like that alleviates a lot of the pressure on him. And so he didn't have to have as massive of a year. And then of course comparing that to his previous season, which was in Columbus, where he had like what he'd have like a 400% increase in goals scored or whatever. Like I mean, it was like
insane.
yeah, but for
Everyone's
this
like,
deal,
"Who's this?"
he's proved himself to be at least a top six guy, a career top six guy,
Yes.
and a good power play guy. He's got a great shot up the on the fast breaks, and I think that's kind of hockey that Vegas wants to play. And so he fits into their lineup well. He's going to be a stud there for a while. And at 5.9 per, I mean, that leaves a lot of wiggle room elsewhere for players to play around him. So I think it's a great deal.
I like it. Yeah, that was a good deal for them, and they got him locked up now for a long time. So hopefully he can continue to produce for 8 more years.
Yeah.
One guy who I don't see producing for 8 more years, but he's sticking in San Jose for 8 more at $11.5 million per year. Erik Karlsson.
That one hurts me.
It's taking all the cap space, and now Pavelski's gone. But yeah, we have Erik Karlsson. Hopefully he can stay healthy. But he was going to be the top defensive free agent, but he did re-sign before free agency hit. Sharks were trying to work things out, and it did. They got him to stay. But at this price tag, for a guy who has been injured the last probably 3 seasons now, it's hard to see him staying healthy for 82 games.
Yeah, I mean, if he plays 70 games next season, I'd be happy.
Well, yeah, I'd take that. I only played half a year this last season, and he was so hurt in the playoffs, he was costing them goals.
Yeah, he couldn't. It seemed like he couldn't even like turn around. Like he would just get burned every play.
He had surgery on his groin the day after they got eliminated from the playoffs. So hopefully he stays healthy. But yeah, Erik Karlsson sticking around with San Jose for 8 more years at 11.5. We all know the kind of player he is. So you just hope he can stay in form.
I think I would like rephrase that to say we all know the player he can be.
Yeah.
It's just going to be whether he can, break it out, basically.
Yeah, and it's all health, I think. If he's healthy, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Jordan Eberle.
He re-signed.
Re-signs. 5 years, 5.5 per.
Good deal.
I like it.
Good deal for the Islanders. I mean, not much to say there. He had a good season this season with them. He scored a lot of timely goals, especially as a big piece in the playoffs. He really kind of brought himself back into that, his old nickname of being Captain Clutch. I mean, he really scored a lot of timely goals in the playoffs, and he'll be a piece that they're going to be happy to keep around for that long at that price, I think.
Yeah, I think he had a great season. Before that, I wasn't really sure what he was.
Edmonton didn't give him a lot of room to grow.
They never do.
I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah, they shipped him out for basically nothing in the end.
Yeah, I think we talked about that before. I was just like trickled down into nothing.
Nothing. And the last one we're going to talk about here, Jeff Skinner stays in Buffalo, 8 years, $9 million per year. I think it's a little expensive. I think he would have went elsewhere. He probably would have only ended up with about $8 million. But I guess free agents don't really like to go to Buffalo, so you kind of have to pay them a little more to stick around.
Yeah, that was the thing, right? Is like,
yeah,
especially with like I guess the big example being Ryan O'Reilly is like,
yeah,
he leaves and then wins a Stanley Cup. It's like other players can be like, oh, that looks pretty good. That's that cup, and that Conn Smythe looks pretty good right now. And so for Jeff Skinner to stay there, obviously they were going to pay him a little bit more just to kind of give themselves the edge in keeping him. They don't want to ruin the chemistry that's already kind of being built up front with some of their big name guys, obviously Eichel and Skinner. They're two guys who are going to at least be able to produce together. Skinner's had a very, very good year scoring wise. He broke out at the start of the season with like He was very, very fast-paced scoring. It kind of trickled off towards the end, but
Yeah,
he's at least kind of showing his potential, the potential that was never really able to come to fruition in Carolina.
It's season long. Goals look amazing, but if you take a look at his first half compared to his second half, it's a world of a difference. His first half was amazing.
Yeah.
So you hope he can kind of repeat that season and, maybe spread it out throughout the whole thing.
Find some consistency in his game, yeah. I mean, that's...
They got a new coach in there now. Hopefully things can work out for them.
We'll see what Buffalo is able to bring to the table.
And those are pretty much all the big signings we have thus far. We're still waiting for a lot of the restricted guys to re-sign. So we're going to sit and wait on those. But as we know, the season's still quite a while away. Or you can be a Nylander and wait till December.
Let's just hope that doesn't happen again in Mitch Marner's situation. Let's hope that the Nylander situation was a one-off example that goes the other way. But I mean, I think that's gonna be it for episode 3 of the Puck Buddies podcast. Sorry for it being so long overdue. Hopefully we'll be able to get these out a little bit more consistently throughout the summer as we get a little bit more to talk about. As I said, we may go back and discuss a little bit of like how the Stanley Cup Finals crunched out a little. We may discuss some more about some of the rule changes, looking forward, and we'll definitely do some more in-depth dives into like the prospects of teams and how they'll fare moving forward into the next season, give our predictions and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I'm sure once these rosters come close to being basically solidified and knowing who's where, we will start running down through each team and kind of looking at what they lost, what they gained as a whole, and make our season predictions and stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll definitely give you guys some more content coming soon. Anyways, guys, my name is Zach. I'm joined with Kurt here for the Puck Buddies podcast.
See ya.